Hi, welcome to Career Development 1, Mini Lecture 9. The purpose of this mini lecture is to discuss Bluestein's psychology of working theory. I think you're really going to like this one. It's totally different from all the theories we've discussed thus far. It's super inclusive, and I find that the language and the framework is a natural fit for us as psychotherapists. So some background. The premise of this theory is decent, dignified, and stable work. This theory includes caregiving and volunteer activity, which is radical in the career counseling world. There's a shift from career to work. And this is looking at work as part of the human experience versus some of the person-environment fit theories, which focus on choice. And the reality is choice doesn't exist for everyone. Also ties together mental health counseling and work counseling in a really seamless way. So some major points to keep in mind. This theory explicitly addresses how economic constraints and marginalization can impair choice, adaptation, and decent work. So it's always looking at race, gender, socioeconomic factors, disability status, etc. It's also taking into account the reality of intersectionality, how these things intersect with each other in the lives of our clients, and particularly in the work lives of our clients in this case. So decent, the word decent and the concept of decent work is something you'll see a lot in this theory. And decent is defined by the International Labor Organization as work that is safe, has adequate free time and rest, allows for work-family balance, has adequate compensation, and has access to healthcare. This theory also has a focus on interrelated social contexts. That's a really important part of this theory. So Bluestein's framework here in this theory is that human needs can potentially be met by working. So one, we have the need for survival. At the kind of the literal level, we're looking at the exchange of work for money. So our money can buy food, clothes, etc. But we also want to be considering social status, prestige, basic benefits like health insurance, wage, and poor working conditions. So then the basic human need for relatedness. Working is an inherently relational act, says Bluestein. So we want to be considering social connection and the development of relationships through work. The third is the need for self-determination. So we really want to be considering what's authentic and meaningful for our client. Of course, we always want to be doing that, right? So the big picture here in applying this theory, we really want to be considering systems. This is the first theory to take systems into account, which is radical and so very important. So we always want to be asking, what is the role of systems in creating or diminishing conditions for our clients? And what's cool about this theory is that we can look at it on the micro level, the individual, or the macro level. We can actually apply this to large organizations, to companies. So in doing this, we have two steps here. One is a needs assessment. So how can current or intended future work fulfill the needs for survival, relatedness, and self-determination? So what the client wants to do, what's meaningful, and what fits with their interests and values. And then we're going to identify sources of agentic action. And Bluestein talks about doing this in three major clusters. Critical reflection and action. So we want to identify systemic causes for injustice and constraint. And that's really important with our clients so that they aren't blaming themselves. We want to bring to focus the reality of this injustice, of this systemic injustice. Then proactive engagement. We want to focus on work volition and adaptability to identify and bolster resources. And then the third is social support. We always want to be looking at that. So to kind of break it down a little bit more clearly, how we're actually working with our clients, the goal here is to help clients understand what work means to them as individuals, but also what it means to their family and community. So we're looking at that greater context. And the interventions here Number one, we're going to assess using the framework that we've discussed in the last couple of slides: survival, social connection, self-determination needs. And then we're going to help the client explore issues from a systemic perspective. And I think you'll find that in using these interventions, a really organic conversation ensues and a path becomes clear. So a couple of closing thoughts here. Again, I love this theory because it's the first of its kind in terms of inclusivity. It also gives us as psychotherapists a simple framework and some concrete language to use with our clients. It's also really important that it takes into account the micro and macro application. So not only looking at the individual, but looking at the systems around the individual and how they may be working against the individual. You can also apply this in working with the systems themselves. So working with organizations, companies, etc. As always, let me know if anything needs to be clarified. Thanks for watching.